So since I've talked about being a maladaptive daydreamer, I thought I would read some things I've written about my daydreams. Hi, by the way. The first thing I'm going to read was written more recently and is an attempt at describing what the hell is going on. I don't know whether it's going to be clear enough or not, but here goes. The first part is explaining why why these daydreams exist. So, I originally invented Lucinda because I wanted to tell stories about books and TV series that I'd seen with this new character, but didn't want that character to be myself. I wanted to be able to keep the same person between stories, which led to the idea of someone who could travel between universes. And then things just sort of evolved and got a little bit out of hand from there. So, let's start from the start. Lucinda is immortal. She's from the universe before our own, where the laws of physics were different, and where life forms were non-corporeal beings. When her universe was destroyed, it was fractured into this multiverse. I feel like that description in Doctor Who, where he sonics the glass and he starts breaking outwards, a bit like that. Anyway, what was up to? When her universe was destroyed, it fractured into this multiverse. Because of this, there are still remnants of the old laws of physics, which, when accessed, are often called magic, and which there is more of the closer a universe to the epicenter of her universe's destruction. In her universe, she was a scientist, along with the rest of her family. I don't know why all the main characters are scientists. Maybe because I'm a scientist and that's like the only job. I'm sort of a scientist. I'm learning to be a scientist, but that's the only thing I really know about. I don't know. It's just how things worked out. So she had two fathers because gender is not really a thing. They're non-corporeal beings. They have nothing to distinguish gender. It's just sort of kind of what's the word? Anyway, it doesn't actually matter. It's just arbitrary. That's the word. Gender is kind of arbitrary, and anyone could have kids if they really love each other enough. Like, the whole story the parents tell you, like, when two parents love each other very, very much, that's kind of true in this universe. Anyway, she had two fathers, an older brother named Stilens, meaning protection, and two younger twins, Chakra, meaning creation, and Amara, meaning destruction. So Chakra is her brother and Mara is her sister, but like I said, kind of arbitrary. Anyway, in this universe, twins are always polar opposites, like yin and yang. So they're opposites, but they also sort of complete each other, I guess. Names are given by the stars, which have an important role in determining the future, which is the origin of astrology, and have strong meaning. Lucinda's name means light, such enlightenment. Her world was a happy place until Horus, I don't really know how to pronounce it when I'm actually speaking out loud. Anyway, his name means pain. Anyway, he brought war and pain to the universe. Horus managed to take over the entire universe, plunging it into terror, but he wanted more, and he enlisted a team of brilliant scientists, with Lucinda at its head, to find a way to expand the universe. Of course, Lucinda didn't want to do this, but she had no choice, as she knew if she didn't cooperate, her entire family would be tortured and killed. However, she couldn't create more universes and more people, knowing what would be done to them. And so, with the help of those she trusted most in her team, she created a machine which would put an end to existence and Horus. The machine would make more universe and more people, but none of those living in the current one would get to see it. At least that's what she thought. Somehow she survived, but her people are creatures of emotion, and when too many dark emotions build up, they can go dark. I don't have a better name for it. A fate considered worse than death, as everything that made them who they are is gone and replaced with cruelty and destruction. After causing the destruction of her people, losing a family, an entire world, she is filled with guilt and anger and sadness and pain. The only thing that stops her from going dark is the thought that her people and her family wouldn't want the last of their kind to be that. Instead, she managed to hold on to a small fraction of light, memories of her family, but she still acts colder, angrier, and more arrogant than she used to be. Eventually, she encounters Earth, and the creatures that live above it, the Greek gods, and chooses to live with them. During that time, she sees humans as insects and has no interest in them. The gods are afraid of her, realizing how little it would take for her to turn on them, and started plotting to kill her. However, Poseidon had seen a softer side to her before, remnants of who she was before, and didn't think it would be right to kill her. He talked to the other gods and convinced them that trying to kill her wasn't a good idea, as if they failed, she would turn on them for sure. Instead, they decided to trap her in a corporeal form and made her into a demigod as a daughter of Poseidon. When she was reborn, Lucinda had no memory of what she was before. Now, I haven't written any more yet, I need to continue that, but then the general gist is, because she has no memories of before, she isn't dark anymore. She's returned to her true self as much as possible, since she's now in a corporeal body, and corporeal and incorporeal, not very compatible, hence the loss of memories. And sometimes it can be a bit like her incorporeal thing is the cloud, and then her corporeal body is the hard drive. That's actually kind of how it's kind of working out. Anyway, at first, she has no memory. The only sign of what she truly is that when she gets angry, she starts to get sort of a dark cloud emanating from her, which can be dangerous. And then, around when she's about 19, something happens. There's an incident. She runs. She doesn't realize how far she went. She gets attacked by a monster. Gets its teeth in her. She turns fully into her non-corporeal form. Completely destroys the monster and some of the general environment in that particular area. Somehow manages to pull herself back together. After that, she has a few memories, and also maybe didn't quite put herself back together completely right because she doesn't age anymore. And after that, also she knows she can't return to camp because she's too dangerous. So she runs off to the city. Things happen. She gets chased down. She knows she'll go dark if someone manages to attack her. She wishes with all her will that she were somewhere else, far, far away. And she winds up in another universe. Specifically around about the sort of Orient, where she learns about sort of meditation and Buddha and all that sort of stuff. And eventually, maybe 300 years later, she managed to learn how to meditate well enough, both having managed to recover more memories and having managed to deal with her emotions better, that she's no longer close to going dark. She's managed to deal with that somewhat, and is a little bit less dangerous. But by then it's a bit late to return, because everyone she knew at camp would be dead. And then, yeah, things go on from there. That's the general background. Another piece of writing, which is something I found again recently, which I wrote a while back. Actually, far enough back that when I first read it, I had no idea what was going to happen in the story, because I couldn't remember having written it. I mean, it's not hardly complete or anything, but clearly I was trying to find some sort of starting point so I could have flashbacks as I went along. Seems like maybe I was going to a sort of solving mystery sort of thing. I don't really know. I have no idea what was in my mind at the time. But here's what I did write. A meteor shower passed over, shining against the swirling colours of the Milky Way. Lucinda lay in a field in the middle of nowhere, listening to the tranquil sounds of nature around her. It was for moments like this, when she could forget about her problems and just enjoy the beauty and wonder of the world, that she continued to live. Suddenly, a dark figure loomed over her, startling her. She jumped up to attention, chastising herself for not staying alert. You're going to get yourself killed like that one of these days. With that thought, all of her worries washed back over her, and her face settled back into its usual mask of hardened composure. What do you want? She demanded of the figure, perhaps a little too harshly. She could now see that he was wearing a police uniform. Just in case, she searched his face for any sign of recognition, but he clearly didn't know her, and she didn't think that She didn't think she'd seen him anywhere before, although it was becoming increasingly harder to remember faces. "You're trespassing, miss," he informed her, in a kindly voice. Lucinda instantly felt bad for stepping at him. He was just doing his job. However, another part of her lit up with rage. "Can't even relax for a moment in the field nowadays. Everything's owned by someone. I remember when most of the world was empty and you could lie down and watch the stars for days without meeting a single soul." Despite these conflicting emotions, she put on a friendly, genuine-seeming smile, apologized. She hadn't realized she was trespassing, and walked out of the field to the motorbike she had acquired. She was just going to have to spend the night in another motel, trying to seem like a normal person. After checking into the motel in the nearby town, Lucinda threw her small duffel bag and collapsed on the bed. Her duffel bag contained only a couple of sets of clothing, some toiletries, and what papers she needed to make it seem like she actually belonged here. She didn't really need a bag for her things. She could get by fine without it, but she had to keep up appearances as usual. It seemed like that was all she ever did, as if her entire life were a lie. "My entire life is a lie," she thought to herself as she lay there. More thoughts along the same lines swirled around her head for hours before she composed herself enough to meditate for a couple of hours. She didn't sleep anymore, hadn't slept in years. Instead, she used the meditation technique she had learned, which allowed her to get the equivalent of a good night's rest in 2 or 3 hours. If she could sleep, she would, if only as a way to pass the time. But every time she did fall asleep, she had the nightmares and woke up again, which just exhausted her more. As soon as dawn broke through the window, Lucinda jumped out of bed, had a quick breakfast in the motel's little cafe, and hopped on her motorbike. But when she reached the edge of town, a motor blockade was blocking the only road out. She pulled up next to one of the police cars to ask what was going on, taking off her helmet and putting on her familiar, friendly smile that charmed everyone she met. The police officers looked at her strangely as she approached, and one of them said something into his walkie-talkie. Immediately, Lucinda was on high alert. She had been a police officer once and knew this reaction meant trouble. Another policeman walked around the corner, and Lucinda just recognized him as the one from last night. He looked at Lucinda and nodded, a slight frown on his face. "Is something wrong?" she asked, keeping a smile, but putting some concern in her voice. If there was one thing she was good at after all these years, it was acting convincingly innocent. "Ma'am, I'm afraid you're under arrest," announced one of the policemen, the town's deputy sheriff, according to his badge. Under arrest? I was only in town one night. What could you possibly think I've done?" "There was a murder last night. I am reliably informed that you were near where the body was found at the time." Lucinda's shocked look for once wasn't entirely acting. She let herself be arrested, saying she would cooperate as well as she could. Hopefully she'd be able to convince them that she's innocent. Otherwise she would be forced to escape and start all over again. If I do that, the true culprit will never be caught. Anger welled up in her again. No one had the right to end a person's life like that. She'd never understand how anyone could think otherwise. Over 2,000 years she'd managed to live, over 2,000 years without killing anyone, and yet these humans with such short lifespans constantly found reasons to kill each other. Damn, I did it again. Lucinda hated it when she called people humans, as if she weren't one of them. That sort of thinking leads to believing yourself superior and objectifying people, which leads to thinking killing or mistreating others is okay. She clung to her humanity as someone clings to a log. Someone drowning clings to a log. But every decade that passed dragged her that bit further from it, worked away more and more of what made her human. So yeah, that was dramatic. And also the story was slightly different at the time. It's evolved over time, so I don't really know what point it was at. But I still felt like it's kind of fitting. And sort of it pulled me in. But then again, it's my own writing. And the only way it probably pulled me in is because I don't remember having written it. But yeah, so that's a bit of my daydreams. Sort of. I don't know where that one was going. So to be continued, not really. Unless I can sort of make up a new story to finish. And yeah, that's a little bit of my daydreams, a little bit of what's inside my head. So that's it. Bye.